Our next performer, our next storyteller is from Philippines. Is Maria Nemy Lou Rocio, is from Philippines, is married and have three beautiful children, currently working as a domestic worker in Hong Kong. He is a member of Les Sentinel and a team leader of Uplifters and an active member of Arts and Me. Her poem entitled Demic was published in an international anthology entitled Diversity, a collection of poems on peace and empathy. Another poem entitled White Flower was published in the issue of 6 of Tiger Moth Review Eco Journal on July 2021. She is a creator and a co-founder of Migrant Writers in Singapore. She states that every poem written from the heart is a masterpiece. Hello, Maria.
Hello. That would be Migrant Writers of Hong Kong.
Migrant Writers of Hong Kong. Sorry about that.
Yeah, it's okay. Thank you. Thank you so much, Eliz. Thank you, and hello, good afternoon, everyone. And thank you for the Migrant Writers of Singapore for inviting me again for another opportunity.
Our pleasure.
Yes, thank you so much. And so my story would be about my life, which I rarely talk about. But since I think this could inspire others, so I decided to share. And I hope this would bring some lessons and inspirations to those who would also want to make themselves better in spite of the adversities of life. So this is my story. A sun-tall tree will never bear mangoes. It was the words that my mother told me, and yes, it never did. This is the story of my life. Story has it that me and my siblings were born to a poor family, with our father, who was a mere farmer, and our mother, who sold rice cakes during town fiestas, and sometimes she holds the rein of the kalesa and becomes the kalesa driver herself to earn extra money for our living. Our mother died when I was 3 years old. I don't have any clear memories of her, and neither do I remember her face. When she died, life became really hard for my father to take care of all of us, his 7 children. So he gave me up for adoption, and my older sisters were given to some relatives in their care. I cannot remember really. I have vague memories of how that day went, but I have some memories stepping into that big house that started a huge turning point in my life. I called my adoptive mother Mama. She was a doctor. She is, until now, a doctor. She took me to Manila, where I spent most of my childhood with my late Lola, my Lola Ating, who was a retired college professor in one of the well-known college of Manila, and my aunt, her sister. She left me there while she worked in the province as a chief of hospital. Without having clear knowledge of what was going on as a child, I openly embraced the new life that was given to me. The life became comfortable. I was raised through all day sanctions and punishments whenever I made a mistake, like caning and kneeling down on mongo beans and salt. And not for long, my mama took me to the province again with her. But because of the nature of her work, we moved from one place to another, leaving me no choice but to adapt to the new environment and new place, new people each time. I really didn't have this close relationships, or I cannot have my childhood friends because um, the situation was not stable. We always have to move from one place to another. She knew it was difficult for me, so she decided to take me back to Manila to finish my primary years. My struggle to search for my true identity started during my high school days, where she took me to the province again to stay with her for my secondary years. It came when I was eagerly seeking for her attention, and for her love. I always felt that there was something missing. I never felt enough. Around that time, it was more clearly known to me that I was an adopted child. I started searching for documents and proof of my adoptions. I was beginning to be curious of who I was, my real identity. My mind was filled of endless questions like, why was I given up for adoption? Who is my father? Where's my family? And those were the questions that started filling up in my mind, but I never dared to ask her. So it was also around that time that I started writing to express my emotions. I started writing poems and started writing my diary secretly. I I hid those poems, those notes from her under my bed because I was scared to let her know about what I'm feeling, and I was not at ease at all to tell her. During my adolescence, the struggle to become accepted and be understood became harder. I always strive to do my best in school with the wish to make her really proud of me. I was in dire mission to fit in within her standards because I already realized that, you know, I was not born from her biologically, and was I was fearing that I could fail her or fail her expectations. She was very strict when it comes to raising me up too. I had my curfews, and a few minutes late would mean no entry at all at the house, and I would end up sleeping with some hospital staffs in their dormitories. She didn't want me to fall in love at an early age, and that was understandable for sure for every mother. But I failed her at this point when I met this guy from our school, and she did everything just to keep me away from that guy. But for me, I did not want to lose that love. So I fought for love because it was the first time that I felt really loved, and I was given that so much attention. And there was one time that I remembered running away from home and stayed at my friend's house. And I was hoping that when I get back, or when I go back to her, she would understand me and start to accept me. But when I came back home the next night, she was really angry. And yes, that night was really so devastating for me. And it was really painful. Sorry. Words from her mouth spilled and began cursing me and my true family, whom I never met. And that's when she said, a santol tree will never bear mangoes. I knew exactly what she meant. It was what time that I felt so down. It affected my studies and was not able to keep my place as a consistent honor student. I succumbed into depression. I remember all that I wanted that time was to meet my real family and be with them, to meet my father and to be able to feel love that I never felt being an adopted child. There were nights when I asked God, why me? Why did you bring me to this place? So when I finished high school and went back to Manila to attend college, I had a heavy heart. I knew I needed to find my missing piece. Things did not work out between me and my mom. Until one day, she said, I will bring you back to your real family. She said that if maybe I could feel or see how hard the life is with them, I would change my mind and treasure what she was giving me. The reunion with my real family was the happiest and yet tearful moment in my life. She told me that if I won't fix myself, I would also end up as a domestic helper like my sisters. I never went back to her. I never asked for her forgiveness. I was filled with pride and I tried to support myself through college. I accepted tutorial jobs and accepted research jobs and written speeches for a living and to pay for my tuitions. But life was hard in the village. Aside from my tuitions, I also needed to spend some of my money for my family. So I quit college and started to work as a factory worker in Bulacan until I met my husband, got married, and had kids. When my youngest was born, I tried my luck of working abroad, though we already have established a small business for our family around that time. But business isn't good also when you have so much um, family members to support, and we dream of having our own house and lot someday. So I started to dream and tried my luck abroad. But when I went to Singapore, I I stayed there for 6 months with my employer, but I broke my contract there because of some issues about with my employer. It was not good experience, and I went home and keeping my self worth, keeping my self respect. It was in 2017 that I got a call for an employer. So after that, I went home and I took care of my kids and the small business that we have. And it was in 2017 that I got a call to work for an employer here in Hong Kong. Again, I grabbed the opportunity with the hope to fulfill our wish to have our own house and lot. When I arrived in Hong Kong, I remembered her words. You will also be a domestic worker like your sisters. Yes, I did. But I decided to be different because I knew for myself I am more than just a domestic worker. I strive to make myself better and search for new things to learn. After a few months, I joined the Lensational, which is a, a photography group, and one of my photos was included in the first exhibit. After a few months, I joined and enrolled in Uplifters Dare to Dream. I made my way out, and now I am one of the gold team leaders. It is also here in Hong Kong where I found my way back into writing, my first passion. I started writing again, poetry and short stories, writing about my experiences and my personal uh, upheavals. Being a team leader exposed me closer to my fellow migrants. It made me know them more and their struggles. With this and having the capability to lead, I thought I could serve them more through my new learned knowledges from writing workshops that I joined to with the migrant writers of Singapore, of course. Until one night, my interest of serving my fellow migrant and writers brought me into creating the Migrant Writers of Hong Kong. It is actually a fruit also of a beautiful friendship with some of my friends, Eileen May Ramos and Giselle Fernandez y Marcos. and made a home for their writings and also paved the way into more new learnings into their writing journey. I know my life is not perfect, but wherever I am now and whatever I'm doing now for my fellow migrants, it has answered my question more than 2 decades ago when I asked God, why me? And why did you bring me to this place? He answered me that, but it just took a long time. But now I realize what my real purpose is in life. Thank you so much for listening to my story.
That was so awesome story. I really love it. And I think one more lesson here also is that we should always trust the process of how God do it.
Yes.
You know, because some people would say they would blame God. Why God is doing this to me? Why God's so unfair to me? But actually, some people think that God leave them alone or God never helped them. But actually, faith and negativity will always be there. God doesn't make all this uh, circumstances. God didn't give this problem, but God is always there to guide you to fight with this problem. He doesn't create this. He's always there to guide us, to protect us. This is the process of how we found our life, and your story is really about like finding your own identity on the higher
Yes.
level, which is which is a really quite tough. And I'm really happy for you that God already answered your prayer through your uh, experiences. And yes, this is really actually also one of the example about our open borders. Storage has no boundaries because we have a performer from Hong Kong. So we don't put any borders here. So in every country overseas, we can invite them and share their stories just like you guys, which is so awesome. Thank you so much, Maria. Such an
Thank you
inspiring
so
story.
much
Thank
too
you so
for
much. Hope to
having.
hear more from you.
Thank
It's a
you.
pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Our next storyteller is from Singapore. Samantha is a fourth-year student studying public policy at Singapore Management University or SMU. She is also the vice president